Recently, Donald Trump gave a press conference. It's been a few days ago. And what stands out about the press conference is not how long it was or how eloquent he spoke, but it was about all the lies that he told. And there was one particular story that is just a monster of dishonesty. I want to share that story with you and remind you why we certainly don't need Mr. Trump back in the White House, a man who has this type of reputation and inability of being truthful. Stay with me. Hello, everybody. This is Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some trending story regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell. All right, again, we're going to talk about a press conference that Donald Trump gave a few days ago, where he told lie after lie after lie, but there's one story in particular that I want to share with you. Now, before we get into this, please go to Amazon, grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. School has just begun, and if you have an African-American son in a public school, you need this book to help you help him. So go grab a copy. All right, so where do I begin? Well, let's begin first and foremost with the fact that this press conference was riddled with lies. Let's start there. All right, NPR. This is an NPR article, and here's what it says. There were a host of false things that Donald Trump said during his hour-long news conference Thursday that have gotten attention. A glaring example is his helicopter emergency landing story, which has not stood up to scrutiny. That's what I want to talk to you about. A team of NPR reporters and editors reviewed the transcript of his news conference and found, watch this, 162 misstatements, exaggerations, and outright lies in 64 minutes. That's more than 2 a minute. More than 2 either misstatements, exaggerations, or lies in a minute. It's a stunning number for anyone, and even more problematic for a person running to lead the free world. Isn't that amazing? How does someone tell that many lies in that short a period of time? It's amazing. And like the article said, Mr. Trump is vying to be, once again, the leader of the free world, the leader of the most powerful country in the world. And it's essential that whoever sits in that seat behind that desk, that resolute desk, has the ability to tell the truth. Otherwise, when he speaks to the country, we can't believe him. Or when he's speaking to foreign leaders, they can't believe him. I mean, this is very serious. Now, this story that I'm going to tell you about here, it shows you just how bad this is. So Trump claims that he was on a helicopter with Willie Brown, but the story does not add up. All right, so let's hear it out of his own mouth.
Please.
There's been some discussion around Vice President Harris's relationship with Willie Brown,
Yeah.
former mayor of San Francisco, and how that might have intersected with her career trajectory. So I'm just wondering if you followed that discussion at all and had any thoughts.
Well, I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. We were in a helicopter going to a certain location together, and there was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was, he was a little concerned. So I know him pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen him in years. But he told me terrible things about her. But this is what you're telling me anyway, I guess. But he had a big part in what happened with Kamala. But he I don't know, maybe he's changed his tune, but he was not a fan of hers very much at that point.
All right, so you heard what he said. He knows Willie Brown very well. I don't know if that's true or not. He says they went down in a helicopter. But the most important thing that he said is that Willie Brown told him during that helicopter ride, or at least that's what Trump is inferring, some very bad things about Kamala Harris. Now, that's what Trump just said to the world. But that story simply does not add up. Let's first of all get a response from Willie Brown.
Now, as a candidate for someone, when you think about this, is a guy who's not very far away, if he were to win, from some very important nuclear codes.
He's probably totally in desperation because he wasn't prepared for the quality of the candidacy of somebody like Kamala Harris.
Were you ever in a helicopter? I mean, like, tell me a bit about when you heard about this story.
I just heard about it like everybody else, somewhere on television or radio.
Ever in a helicopter with the guy?
No, are you kidding me? I wouldn't ride with him for fear something might happen to the helicopter.
And would you have ever just? I can't imagine you talking to this man about Kamala.
Of course not.
But your sense about her as a candidate?
I think she's going to be the president. And should. There's nobody else better qualified. And when she was designated by Biden to take his place on the ticket, and then hopefully for the presidency, it was a breath of fresh air for all America. I've never seen so many people enthusiastic about politics.
And then finally, it seems like perhaps Governor Newsom today is quoted in the New York Times saying that he was referring perhaps to Jerry Brown instead of Willie Brown, and if this happened up in Paradise in 2018. Do you think that, does it surprise you that you could be confused with Jerry Brown?
I don't think I'm confused with Jerry Brown. I think Trump made the whole story up. And if you're into fictional writing and fictional speaking, you do make stories up.
So there you have it. Mr. Brown says that never happened. He says that Trump made the whole story up. He said he has never ridden in a helicopter with Trump and would never do so because of fear that something, in fact, would have happened to the helicopter. He denied saying anything bad about Kamala Harris. So Trump completely lied on Willie Brown about him saying something disparaging about Kamala Harris. Now, regarding the helicopter going down, that did happen. But it happened with another black man, a black man by the name of Nate Holden. Now, how do we know that that happened with Nate Holden and not Willie Brown? Well, because there was another person on the helicopter who at that time worked for Trump. Her name is Barbara Ress. I want you to hear from Ms. Ress. This is corroborating evidence to support Mr. Brown's denial that he was ever on a helicopter with Mr. Trump.
Joining us now, Barbara Ress, former executive vice president of the Trump Organization and author of Tower of Lies, What My 18 Years of Working with Donald Trump Reveals About Him. Barbara, what's the real story here?
What's the story? Okay,
real
we
story.
we were working on a very big project in California. We were going to redo the Ambassador Hotel, tear it down and put up a big, maybe 6 million square foot project there. And we were working with local politicians and state politicians, and one of the very important politician was this man, Nate Holden. He was the representative of the district on the city council. So Donald wanted to talk to him, and I'm sorry, Donald wanted to talk to him, so I tried to set up a meeting, and I brought Nate into the city, and then Donald told us the only way he can do it is if we go with him on a helicopter ride to Atlantic City, and they can have the meeting there in Atlantic on the helicopter. So we said sure. So we went onto the helicopter. It was not Donald's personal; it was a private one. And if you remember, Donald lost 3 executives on a helicopter crash, which he said, by the way, he was supposed to be on, and of course he wasn't ever going to be on that flight. But anyway, we take off, and it's kind of bumpy. And I don't remember if it was Robert or Harvey Freeman there with four of us on, besides Donald. Two of his executives, Robert was his brother, but somebody said, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's the tide meeting the Sound and the Hudson River, and it causes turbulences in the air." Meanwhile, I'm saying, yeah, right. I'm looking at the cockpit, and the co-pilot has this, it's like a thick shirt, and he's pumping it like crazy, pumping. And finally, they said, "Look, we've lost some instruments, and we're going to have to make an emergency landing." But I mean, it wasn't like, "Oh my God, we're going to crash." It was just, we can't, keep going. So we found the closest airport, and he landed us in Teterboro, and everyone was fine. Donald was terrified. And after the whole thing was over, he was joking with Nate Holden, who happens to be a black man. And he said, "Nate, you turned white." But let me tell you something. Donald was really, really scared. I wasn't really that upset. I was more interested in watching everyone else's reaction. And
So you heard Miss Ress say that it was Nate Holden, not Willie Brown. So you heard Willie Brown say that he had never been on a helicopter with Donald Trump. And then you heard Miss Ress, who worked for Trump back then, who said it was her and Trump and Mr. Holden, Nate Holden. In fact, here's a picture of Mr. Holden. So there's Willie Brown, there is Nate Holden, and there is Miss Ress, right? And so she sets the record straight. She corroborates both Willie Brown and Nate Holden. And again, the big thing here is that whatever Trump says that Willie Brown said to him about Kamala Harris is not true. He fabricated that. He made that up. Apparently what happened was he forgot who was on the helicopter with him. I guess he knew it was a black dude. He remembered that. And he just figured he would say it's Willie Brown because he knew Willie Brown had a relationship with Kamala Harris back in the day. I think that's confirmed. I think Willie Brown has confirmed that. All right? So he used that occasion to put all that together to say that Mr. Brown had disparaged Kamala Harris, and you heard Mr. Brown completely refute that. He denied that. But the fact that Trump would fabricate that like that he would make that up, I mean, that is amazing to me, especially someone who wants to lead the country. It's crazy. Now, let's hear from Mr. Holden himself. He gave a telephone interview to Politico, and let's get his account. So the article says it was Nate Holden, a former city council member and state senator from Los Angeles, who said in an exclusive interview late Friday that he remembers the near-death experience well. He and others believed it happened sometime in 1990. Quoting him, "Willie is the short black guy living in San Francisco," close quote, Holden said. "I'm a tall black guy living in Los Angeles. I guess we all look alike," Holden told Politico, letting out a loud laugh. So Mr. Holden says that Mr. Brown is short, he's tall, but in Trump's mind, all blacks look alike. At any event, Mr. Holden was the one who was really on the helicopter, not Mr. Brown. And Mr. Holden also denied having said anything disparaging about Kamala Harris. So Trump made all that up. He totally fabricated it. So what he actually did here in this story is he, first and foremost, forgot who was on the helicopter, or he didn't realize that whoever was on the helicopter, they also could set the record straight. Either way, whether it was a complete fabrication or he simply forgot it, just says the man should not be in office again. So, 162 lies in the space of 62 minutes. One of the biggest lies has been completely refuted. This all tells me, once again, that Mr. Trump should not be in that office because he used this story to fabricate a lie against Kamala Harris. I mean, this is just sad to see a man, this age. Mr. Trump is, I believe, 78 years old, and he has, the inability, it appears, to be honest and to tell the truth. So I wanted to bring you this story. It stood out to me. I watched every bit of the press conference, but I definitely wanted you to hear the story about the emergency landing of the helicopter and the fact that he just completely fabricated this regarding Kamala Harris. The helicopter apparently did go down, but it wasn't Mr. Brown, it was Nate Holden, and Mr. Holden denied saying anything about Vice President Harris. All right? So I'm Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Thank you for tuning in, and until the next time, peace.